a little bit, just maybe 30 seconds or so to join us. All right. Well, we pride ourselves on at least trying to keep these things rolling and keeping on time. Welcome. My name is Johns Hopkins with Baltimore Heritage, and thanks for joining us on this really gray Friday. I guess we need the rain, so no complaints, at least on this end, but thanks for joining us. This is one of our Friday afternoon virtual history talks in partnership between Baltimore Heritage and the Baltimore Architecture Foundation. So both of us say thank you, and for anybody who made a voluntary donation, a double thank you. Thank you for helping keep this program and all of our programs going. Just two quick announcements before I turn it over to our speaker today. We've got another talk coming up in April, Baltimore's Road Wars. If you haven't read the book, or even if you have, the author Evans Paul is going to join us and talk about how this really momentous era in our past not only shaped what we were, but shaped what we are today as well. And then in May, we're going to be joined by Richard Aloysia to talk about LGBTQ heritage in Baltimore. We as Baltimore Heritage have been doing LGBTQ walking tours for a while, and we thought, why not try that out virtually as well? So I hope you can join us for that. One bit of housekeeping, sort of point of order. If you've got questions, please put them in the chat box and we will get to them at the end. We'll try to get to as many as we can. All right, so today's speaker, Lashelle Bynum. If you have seen some of Baltimore Heritage's 5 Minute Histories videos, you will recognize Lashelle. She is Miss Edmondson Village for sure. Also joined us on the Black Soldiers Monument right by City Hall. And then, of course, ghost signs in Baltimore was really fantastic. I will say, before turning it over to Lashelle, she is a photographer and a researcher of Baltimore's history and architecture. I spent a wonderful day playing hooky back about a year ago as COVID was sort of lightening up a little bit. A number of us went up to Philadelphia to try to see whether that city was really as historic as it says it is. And I guess begrudgingly, maybe we'll give them that honor. But I got to spend a wonderful day with Lashelle, wandering around with her camera, discovering ghost signs in Philadelphia and discovering beauty in Center City, Philadelphia. And I do get the pleasure to do similar things with her here in Baltimore. So I'm going to shut up and say thanks, Lashelle, for joining us. And we are all yours, ghost signs and everything.
Okay, go ahead. Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, thank you, Johns, for that introduction. Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining us. My name is Lashelle Bynum, and today we're going to talk about ghosts, walls, that is. Okay, I have been researching and running around finding these signs for the last 20 years of my life. So today, here we go. Ghost signs, I fade, therefore I am. Ghost walls, ghost signs, brick ads, known by many names, are fading advertisements painted on the signs of homes and buildings. These brightly advertisings were painted by a few sign companies I noticed in Baltimore. There were Morton, Park, Globe, Pritchett, and Chevery. Ghost signs have been my interest for the last 20 years. I find them fascinating, while they give me a sense of nostalgia. Though many are hard to decipher as time has played its part, with some still visible, you can see that some had 3 or 4 advertisements painted on top of each other. With the various layers of paint in decay, you can come up with quite a message. The signs weren't meant to be picturesque, but to be highly visible advertisement located in conspicuous locations for soliciting purposes or just local production. Advertisements within the walls of which they were painted. These signs are truly becoming ghosts, as some of the buildings where they once appeared are being torn down or painted over as the new Baltimore is being constructed. We're going to talk about the very first one that I found, which is Lenny's House of Naturals. This is the one that started this. This one is located at the corner of the 1200 block of Fayette and Carrollton Street. That building has now been completely demolished. In Lenny's House of Naturals, this is where Oprah, Richard Sher, and everybody used to go get their afros cut and just hang out and do barbershop stuff. And interviewing Mr. Lenny was very interesting. We will now talk about Appelfeld. Appelfeld Clothing and Manufacturing Company is located on the corner of the 300 block of West Baltimore Street. Its advertisement slogan reading, "A garment hanger for every purpose." That building is now covered halfway by apartments, where you can see the sign. That's all you can see now as this new building has been constructed. Then we're going to talk about Benesh. And I hope I'm saying that right. If anybody knows the correct pronunciation, let me know. But this place was a furniture store, and it was called the Great House of Isaac Benesh and Sons. And its main location was in the Old Town Mall. When you go see that building in the Old Town Mall, it's still there, and it has ornamental lettering outside of the building. Okay, now where it is on Fort and Stack Street, this building has completely covered the sign. So there's no chance of ever seeing that again. Okay, and then we're going to talk about the New Academy Hotel. This one now is also gone. This stood next to the Mayfair Theater at the 100 block of Franklin Street in Howard, next to the Congress Hotel. Okay, it has since again been knocked down and completely demolished. And now we're going to talk about the people who painted those walls and who they were called. They were called wall dogs. The wall dogs were the sign painters who were undeniably skilled artists, and even in their fast execution, some were local and some were out of town who worked for the major sign companies. The owner of the wall was usually given a privilege for the use of the wall, which was for a smaller ad for their own store or cafe, or whatever was painted above or below the ad for the national product. The wall dogs, with their ladders and scaffolds, mixed their own paint to exacting colors. They used white lead for white and lamp black for black. Some painted from scaled drawings. They would execute the design on the wall, making sure the lettering was level, even if the wall wasn't, so that it would fit the allotted space. Some would make a paper pattern of the design and then perforate the lines with a pattern wheel that would leave a series of holes. They would then fasten the pattern to the wall and pat the outline with a cotton bag filled with chalk or powdered charcoal called a pounce bag. The result was a dotted line, like connect the dots. The paint was mixed with linseed oil and varnish with, perhaps for rapid drying, a little bit of gasoline. In a few short hours, the result was long lasting, as long as 50 years. But with time and the sun, they would age. White lead deteriorated slowest of all, so many signs today are white ghosts of the original. They say some of the signs are only visible after the rain, prompting the name ghost signs. Okay, now we're going to talk about my second favorite, the Knickerbocker Building. Why this is my favorite, I don't know. I don't know if it's the angle that I shot it, but I just love this one. This building is still occupied, and it's on 200 East Lexington Street. If you come down that street, you look on your left side and you look up and you'll see it. Then we're going to talk about C.H. Lear's. C.H. Lear's had multiple signs. So if you were coming up Franklin Street, you would see the back of the building and you would see this one, which is now completely gone. But if you were coming up Howard Street, you would see the Howard Street side of it. But their slogan was, buy today what you'll be proud of tomorrow. And they manufactured of slum-made bedding. Okay, and then we're going to do the Progress Federal. This one is still up. It's on the 200 block of Saratoga Street on the side of now the La Quinta Hotel. This sign now is really, really fading. You can barely see any of this, but it's a hint of it there. Then we're going to talk about the beauty school sign. This one is coming down Mulberry Street when you're at the light of Mulberry and St. Paul, but you have to look behind you to your right because that's where it is on the back of a building. And I did some research on this one as well. Didn't find much, but I like it. And it still looks like it looks as you see it right now. Okay, then we're going to talk about the Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company, known to us as A&P. This one is on the side of the Old Town Mall. This one has really faded as well. It doesn't look like that now. You can barely see it, but it still left a hint of it. Hall's Wall Bakery. This one was on Edmondson Avenue and Poplar Grove. This one has a lot of meaning to me too, because I lived in Emerson Village all my life. And growing up in Emerson Village and going to school in the morning, the first thing you smelled when you came out the door was that bread. So, I mean, sitting here talking about it, I can smell it, almost taste it right now, but yeah, that's one of my favorites. And then Schuster's. Schuster's was a furniture store. This ghost wall was tucked back up in the corner. It can be seen on State Street and Mulberry Street. If you were at a light and if your car was further enough back, you would see it. But if your car was closer to Howard Street, you would miss it because you would have passed it. Okay. And then we're going to talk about this baby right here. It took me a long time to figure this one out, and I'm still trying to figure it out. Molly and I sat down the other day and played with this one. So what we came up with, it's the E. Rosenfeld and Company. They sold faultless pajamas, night robes, and night shirts. When I saw the faultless pajamas, the first thing I thought was faultless spray starch. So that could be a part of that as well. And then we talk about Baltimore Bargain House. Now this sign I've seen in 3 different places. I've seen it on Park Avenue, Baltimore Street, and what you see right here, which is the back of Howard Street. That's how they parallel with the Manchester shoes. Okay. And my third baby, my favorite, Meyer and Thalheimer engravers and stationaries with the Sealy Posturepedic sign in it and the Lee Furniture Company. Okay, this one is on the 1900 block of West Baltimore Street, and you have one on Howard Street. Now, it is now covered by the new Bank of America building. My goal is to get in that building and photograph it as it is now because it's halfway covered, but I like to have a photograph of what it looks like now from that angle. So I'm working on that one. And then we're going to talk about the Cubanola cigars. This is another one. Introduced to me by the Baltimore Heritage Society, and I find it fascinating. I love the color, so vibrant, but its vibrancy comes from the fact that it was covered for so many years and just uncovered, I think maybe 2 years ago. This one is a double sign as well. So it talks about the carriage and wagon builder, and it talks about Cubanola cigars. So I'm still trying to decipher that one too. And then we come to ones that have been restored. Now the Parker Metal Decorating Company, this is what it looked like when I first photographed it. This is what it looks like now. The Himmelrich Company renovated the entire building and decided to put the Parker Metal building sign back up. They left out the decorating part, but they restored it. And then we'll talk about the carriages. This one was, it faced both sides of the street. It faced Saratoga. And now this building, someone came and painted a horse on the side of the building, which I thought made it totally interesting. But today, as we sit here and talk about this, that entire building has been rebricked, totally done over. So that is gone. And the last one almost is the 4th Avenue Pharmacy that also has a Hender's ice cream. This one also was covered. And the owner that purchased this home, he decided to keep them. I have interviewed him. He had an interesting story to tell. I'm looking forward to telling you all the stories about this. And then we talk about the barbershop. This one is a brand new one. It's on Howard Street. I seem to notice that there are a lot of resurging of these signs coming back. I look around and I see buildings who have revised old ones, bringing new ones. So I will be on the hunt for those, and I will be out to interview the people who have revived them, restored them, and for the ones who have decided to make new ones, like this barbershop one. These signs will always keep me busy. When I'm out of town, they find me. So I photograph them as well. But I love digging up the history because of all the ones that I have in my arsenal. I have dug up the history on all that I could find, even the sign companies. So one day I hope to put together a full-blown exhibit and exhibit them all and tell a little bit about them each. But they mean a lot to me and I really enjoy them. And I hope you have as well. And thank you.
Great, thanks, Lashelle. That was fabulous. I didn't keep total track, but that must have been at least a couple dozen ghost signs there. Let me ask again, please, if you have any questions for Lashelle, we still have a few minutes. Please put it in the Q&A box. I guess that's the right one. Either one, we'll find it. Let's see, I'm going to go through these just kind of in the order that they came in. One listener asked, would you like any other photos of old ghost signs from buildings that have been torn down? I guess maybe this person has some to offer you buildings that are no longer here. Are you open for donations, maybe?
Yes, I am. Bring them to me. Bring me your ghosts. I will take care of them. Yes, I would love that. I would love that. And to meet you as well. What you think?
Here's another person who says they're currently working on a thesis project researching ghost signs and has learned a lot. I would love to hear your opinion on the importance of documenting ghost signs and sharing their history with others. Do you think that restoring ghost signs can be seen as destroying them? Wait, we have two questions. So first of all, well, part A, what do you think about the importance of documenting for posterity ghost signs?
It's important because that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm all this history that I've dug up on the signs, the companies. Yeah, very important. Yes.
Excellent. So the sort of part two is what do you think when people restore ghost signs? Is that restoring them or kind of destroying them?
I think it's restoring them because they don't want to let go. And I think, yeah, them doing it, just restoration without a doubt. And I'm glad that they do it. For all the people that are doing it, I love it because that's why I'm going back out there and to interview them and ask them, why? I want to know their reason. Loving it. Totally love it. Because when I look at these ghost signs, the old ones, especially the old ones, they just make me, I don't know, they just make me feel so, I don't know, happy. I could have a bad day and I could see one of those and that just takes it all. It just takes all that, whatever I was feeling earlier. They make me smile. They just make me feel good. So yeah, definitely that. Mhm.
All right, next one, we apparently the Cubanola ghost sign caught people's attention. We have a couple questions of basically where is that again? Do you remember where the Cubanola sign is?
Cubanola is in the 2100 block of East Fayette Street.
And then we got a question about that. Where's the Hendler Creamery sign located? Maybe we'll have to put a list up on our website of your ghost signs and their addresses. Maybe, I'm not sure I'm allowed to pledge that or not, but maybe we'll see if we can make that happen.
Okay.
But do you remember just real quick where the Hendler Creamery sign is?
That it is on Fort Avenue.
On
Fort Avenue. Yes, I forgot what block of Fort Avenue, but you have to look for it because you coming down Fort Avenue, you won't see it if you're going towards the Fort McHenry. But if you're coming back the opposite way and coming up, you'll see it. I know it's before you get to the Fort Avenue little strip mall. Before you get to that. So if you get past that, you've missed it. If you're coming back up, but if you come back up and you pass it, just look to your left. And you can't miss it. You can't miss it.
There you go. We'll try to figure out if we can actually get an address there, but don't hold us to it just yet. Here's a question. Did you realize when you started photographing ghost signs that many would be lost forever?
You know, I wasn't thinking when I started, I wasn't thinking that. It was like, I gotta have them. And I started hunting them and they started finding me. As a matter of fact, I went out last night to the Hippodrome and I was in the elevator and I looked out the window and I'm like, oh my God, there is one I never got. So tomorrow I will be going back over there in that elevator because I have to be elevated to see it. And I'm going to photograph it. It's going to have to be through glass, but I'm going to get it. It was just something I was just into, but I was photographing them for a long time before I started doing the history. And then one day I was like, wait a minute, I want to know who did this. Because I think about the wall dogs. When they painted those signs, how did they feel when they went home at night? Were their hands cramped? Did they have paint in their fingernails? I mean, I want to know how they felt. And I look at that because that's a craft, which we have lost a lot of in this day, so, wanting to know how they felt when they went home and what they were like themselves made me started like, you know what, I'm gonna dig up this history. I wanna see, and I've found some fascinating things in the history. I've interviewed some fascinating people who own some of these companies. Yeah, there's stories to tell, definitely stories to tell.
Maybe this would be part one of a multi-part series here.
Okay.
We got a question. Do you have a social media account so we can follow your journey?
I do, but I don't have the ghost signs on there yet.
Okay,
Yes,
I will. I think we might get a couple other questions that might be requests, actually.
I'm going to have to now. I will do that.
Let's see, there's a question here, and there's a bunch of questions about location of signs. And again, we're going to try to put that up on our website like as soon as we can. But here's one: is the interview you did on Lenny's House of Naturals? Is that interview available anywhere? If somebody wants to learn more about Lenny's House of Naturals or your conversation with Lenny, where can they go?
No, it is not. None of my interviews are public to the public yet because I have plans. So not yet, but as soon as I do, you'll be the second to know.
Okay, a little teaser there.
Yes.
All right, here's another one that let me turn a sort of an observation into a statement. This person says, in Little Italy, there is a Fleischmann's margarine ghost sign on the wall in Yiddish, so you probably can't read it. Do you know of any ghost signs, at least in Baltimore, that are in languages other than English?
No, but I'm going to find that one. That's interesting. That is That is just as interesting as the ones that are double and triple, trying to decipher. So that in itself is totally interesting. Thank you for that.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
you might get a follow-up, Deborah Cohen. So hold on. Another question from Dean Krimmel, who's a friend of ours here at Baltimore Heritage, asking about how you figured out, how'd you come to know about wall dogs, first the name, and then how did you learn about them and the process for how they painted their signs?
Digging around, history hunting, history hunting as well as ghost hunting, researching. And I will never stop researching because it's always something. Every time I'm photograph a new sign or looking for something, I always find something new. So the research will never stop, in my book anyway. No, I've always looked and out there just to researching it.
Great. We've got a number of questions asking how, if people do have photographs of old ghost signs, where they send them. Why don't you send them to me? And then I'll make sure they get to Lashelle. And then we can sort of start a correspondence that way. But if somebody who can type, like my colleague Molly can type my email in the chat box, it's basically my last name, hopkins@baltimoreheritage.org. So if you have any more comments or you want to send an image or ask for something, send it to me and then I'll make sure Lashelle gets it.
Yes, I actually have an interview with a lady. She has one painted inside of her house. So I'm going to be meeting with her one day next week to go photograph her and her sign and get a little interview from her. Yeah.
Excellent. Here's a question. We still have a few more minutes here. Here's a question. During what era were most of these signs painted? Was there like a sweet spot when these were just coming up all over the place?
I'm thinking like the 50s and the 60s. 50s and the 60s. Yeah, late 50s. I'll say maybe late mid 50s, 60s, something like that. Yeah.
And sort of part two, do you know was there any regulation on who could paint what on whose walls? Was there any city anything on that?
More research to dig into. How to find out.
Not yet.
Yeah, and thanks for that question too, because you're right. That's been a thought of mine too. I haven't dug it up yet, but again, just like I'm hunting the signs, I'm digging the history as well.
Well, here's one that's maybe not history. Are there? I think you mentioned one new wall sign, a barbershop. Do you know of any other new wall signs that are either pretty recent or in progress?
There is one on North and Fulton. It's a liquor store. They've just painted, well, it's been painted a couple of years now, but that's a new one. Yes. And he's on my interview list as well. But yeah.
Yeah, we're heading into our 1:30 hour. Wait, a few more here. Here's one. Can you tell any changes over time in the style of the graphics or the lettering?
Now, I'm not an expert on lettering in that, but to me, no. I'm so enthralled by the fact they're restoring the signs and making new ones. I'm cool with it. As long as you do the sign, I'm with them.
Or how about, like, can you look at a sign and say, oh, that one's really old because it does this or that or the other thing?
Well, I mean, if you go look at an old one, you can tell it's old because it's fading, just for a new one. But I tell you what, you'll make me look different now. Thanks for that. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm always learning something new. And with that right there in itself, though it doesn't make a difference in a sense to me, because the fact that you're even redoing it, I'm cool with that. But it will make me look a little differently now. Yeah, so thank you.
Here's what we got. We got a request for you to do a tour of ghost signs. So hold that thought. But here's a question. How do you feel about graffiti, another form of wall art?
I think graffiti is beautiful. I've always, it's art. It's art. You know, it's just like the new murals that are starting to go around the city that I find totally beautiful, which is in my next quest to work on that as well, is photographing them because they're beautiful. And, you know, graffiti done tastefully, I'm with it. I'm down for it. I'm so down for it.
There we go. We got maybe one or two more. Here's a question. Do you know the wall signs that are painted today? Do you know whether they use different paint, different materials, different techniques?
Well, what I'm going to do in my quest for these new signs, I'm going to look at the companies that painted them, and I will reach out to the company and I will ask them. And then I'll know from the old era to the new era, which is, again, still digging up stuff, still researching, still finding out new stuff. So yeah, I'll let you know though.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up. I will point out one in the we did get a link from Ani Gellis, who's at the Baltimore Museum of Industry, sharing I guess some sort of video on sign paint, featuring documentary on sign painters. So maybe we'll share that on our website also. That if you're interested on, I'm not sure who did the documentary. Hopefully it's good, but we'll share that. And there, for everybody who's wrote in with a ghost sign that wasn't covered today, we'll try to do a little compilation of those as well. And then we will force Lashelle back out into the streets with her camera, and maybe we'll come back with a part 2 Friday afternoon talk. All right, thanks everybody, and I hope you have a good rest of your afternoon. And Lashelle, thank you so much.
Thank you, and I look forward for my exhibit. I'm going to do a full-blown exhibit on ghost signs. So yeah, I will let you all know. But thanks again for joining us, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.